Okay, so today we're going to be looking at the customary units for weight. Okay, so weight. What units do we use here in the USA to measure weight? Okay, so stop the video and write down if you think you know what we use to measure weight. Okay, so if you said ounces, pounds, and tons, you are correct. Okay, so we use ounces, pounds, and tons here in the USA. Okay, so ounces is the lightest form of measurement that we have, and that would be like if I want to measure, not measure, if I want to weigh stuff that doesn't weigh that much. So, for example, one slice of bread is equivalent to about 1 ounce. So one slice of bread, if I put a slice of bread, that's about an ounce. If you want to try to know what that's like, ask your parents if you can put a slice of bread on your hand and you can see how much it weighs. It doesn't weigh very much, okay? So, so 16 ounces is equal to 1 pound. So a whole loaf of bread is usually about a pound. So if you were to hold a loaf of bread in your hand, that's about how much a pound is, okay? So what other things could you measure around your house that weigh about an ounce that you would use the ounces for? Okay, stop the video, write it down on your paper, what other things you think you would use ounces for. Okay, now that you're back, so one thing that I thought of that you can weigh are like coins, a few coins or one coin. You would probably would want to use ounces for that. Maybe one or two pieces of paper, maybe slices of cheese, stuff like that, okay? Powder, some kind of powder that you want to put in to your smoothie and you want a certain amount of ounces in there. There's the little scales that they sell that you can weigh ounces with, okay? So we only usually use ounces, usually in the kitchen, okay? So yeah, those are some things. So now let's look at pound. And that's probably what you're most familiar with and what you've heard probably the most. So remember, a pound is 16 ounces. It's also about the weight of a guinea pig. One guinea pig is about a pound, okay? 4 sticks of butter. So 4 sticks of butter is about a pound. So if you don't have bread and you want to see how much a pound is, about 4 sticks of butter, so the container of butter that you get from the grocery store, that's about a pound, okay? What are some of the things that you can use to measure using pounds at home? What else would you weigh that would be about a pound? Okay, stop the video, write some stuff down, and then we'll come back and share. Okay, if you said like a book, okay, a book is about a pound. Okay, if you said like maybe chicken that comes in packages, that's probably would be in pounds. Us, ourselves, okay, if we were to put ourselves on the scale, we weighing ourselves in pounds. Any animal, human beings, pretty much every ordinary object you think of, we probably would want to measure in pounds. So pounds is probably used the most often, okay? Then our biggest unit of measurement for weight is a ton, okay? So an elephant weighs about 2,000 pounds, which is about 1 ton. So 2,000 pounds is 1 ton, okay? So that's quite heavy. That would be thinking about like football players, okay? Think about the football players have big and bulky, the big and bulky ones, not the running backs, the big bulky ones have all those muscles. So about 10 of those football players would weigh a ton, okay? Can you think of some other things that could weigh a ton? So stop the video, write them down, and then come back to me. Okay, so some other things that I thought could weigh in tons would be like big things like cars, like a car would probably be measured in tons. So if you were to weigh your house, that'd probably be in tons. I don't know, maybe. Okay. So big giant animals, the dinosaurs. Yeah. And yeah, so we'll share when we have our Zoom on the following Monday, we'll share what you came up with. Okay. So on your paper, I want you to write down these measurements. So remember, a pound is usually what we weigh most of the stuff. So 1 pound In 1 pound, we get 16 ounces. So write down that 1 pound is 16 ounces. And LB is abbreviation for pounds. And I'm not sure why, because there's no L and there's no B in the word pound, right? I don't know. That's something that we've used. I'm sure there's a reason behind it. If you want to look it up and send it to me, let me know why. So 1 pound is about 16 ounces, okay? And 1 ton is 2,000 pounds. So write that down. You're going to need to know that 16 ounces is 1 pound and 2,000 pounds is equal to ton. So today's kind of easy because we only have two measurements we got to remember. 16 ounces is a pound, 2,000 pounds is a ton, okay? All right, so now that you've written that down, we're going to look at converting some ounces and pounds into fractions. So on the top here of my chart, I have my ounces. On the bottom, I have my pounds. So 1 ounce is equivalent, if I were to write it in fraction form, it's 1/16 of a pound. Because remember, the numerator tells me the part that I have 1 ounce, and the bottom, the denominator tells me how much I have in all. I have 16 ounces in all that equal 1 pound. So for 2, it's 1/8 because it's 2 out of 16. And I know that I can divide both by 2 because I want it in the simplest form. So I'm dividing the top and bottom by 2, and that's going to give me 1/8. Okay? So the four, not fourth. So the 4 would be 4 on top, 16 on the bottom because I have 4 ounces out of 16 ounces. In simplest form. I know this is not my simplest form. I know these are because 1/16 is a unit fraction, 1/8 is a unit fraction. So I know that's my simplest form. 4/16, I know I can divide them both by 2, but I know that I can also divide both by 4. So I'm going to divide both by 4. And if I were to divide 4 by 4, I'm going to get a 1. If I were to divide 16 by 4, I'm going to get 4, 1/4. Okay? So do that so do the next two by yourself and then come back to me to see what you get. Okay, if you got 1/2 for the 8, you'd be correct because 8 over 16 is equal to 1/2 because I know that I can divide 8 by 8 and 16 by 8. 8 divided by 8 is 1, 16 divided by 8 is 2, and I get 1/2, and I know that's the smallest, the simplest form because it's a unit fraction, okay? For 12 ounces, you should have gotten 3/4 because it's 12 over 16. I know I can divide 12 by 2 and 16 by 2, but I know I can also divide it by 4. I can divide 12 by 3, but not 16 by 3, but 4 works for both. So 12 divided by 4 is 3, 16 divided by 4 is 4. 3/4, I know that's my simplest form because I can't divide any further. I can divide 3 by 3, but I can't divide 4 by 3. So I know 3/4 is my simplest form, okay? Okay, so now we're gonna do some conversions. But remember that we know that if we're going from a smaller to a bigger, we must divide. Smaller to bigger, you 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 must divide. Sing it with me, don't leave me hanging. Smaller to bigger, you must divide. Smaller to bigger, you must divide. Bigger to smaller, multiply. Bigger to smaller, multiply. Come on, sing it with me. Bigger to smaller, multiply. Bigger to smaller, multiply. This is going to help you. So if you need to, repeat this part of the video and sing it with me. It's really, really going to help you. So I'm going from 4 tons to pounds. So ton is bigger than a pound. So I'm going from a bigger to a smaller. So I must multiply. So then you see what they've done is they've taken the 4 tons times 2,000 because there is 2,000 pounds in 1 ton. So I got to multiply it by 4 because I have 4 tons. So it's 4 times 2,000, which gives me 8,000. Okay? On this example, I'm going from ounces to pounds. I'm going from a smaller to a bigger, so I must, that's right, divide. Smaller to bigger, you must divide. Smaller to bigger, you must divide. So they're doing 144 divided by how many ounces are in a pound? Well, there's 16 ounces in a pound. And if you do the math, 144 divided by 6, it equals 9. Okay? So now we're going to try some. Okay? So let's look at our first example. Okay, in our first example, we have 64 ounces is equal to how many pounds? So I'm going from ounces, which is smaller, to bigger. So I must, that's right, divide. I must divide. So then I got to divide my 64 divided by 16. So go ahead and do that. Stop the video, divide 64 by 16, and then see what you get. Okay, so if you got 4 pounds, you are correct. Because 64 divided by 16, it goes in 4 times. And I did that by trying just some different numbers. I did 16 times 2, and I got 32, so I knew that wasn't enough. And some of you probably already knew, oh, 32 plus 32 is 64. But if you didn't, you could have done 16 times 3, and that gives you 48. That's not enough, so then I did 16 times 4, and it gives me 64. Okay? Okay, so let's do our next one. So our next one is 10,000 pounds is equal to how many tons? I know ton is bigger, so I know pounds has to be smaller. So I'm going from a smaller to a bigger, so I must do what? Divide. I must divide. So it's 10,000 divided by 2,000. Go ahead and do that one. Okay, if you said 5, you are correct. Because 10,000 divided by 2,000, I can just simply ignore the zeros and I can simply think 2 goes into 10 how many times? 5 times. So 2 times 5 is 10, and then I got to add my 3 zeros. So 10,000 minus 10,000 is 0, so it goes in 5 times. Okay, let's look at number 4. 11 tons is equal to how many pounds? 11 tons is equal to how many pounds? I know tons the biggest, so I know I'm going from bigger to smaller, so I multiply. So how many pounds are in a ton? If you said 2,000, you are correct. So I need to multiply 11 times 2,000. Okay, so 11 times 2,000, I can ignore my zeros in my 2,000. I can simply do 11 times 2, and that's going to give me 22. And then I need to add my 3 zeros from my 2,000. Or I could do 2,000 times 11. Or you could have done 2,000 times 11. Either way, I like taking shortcuts. Ignore those. 11 times 2 is 22. Add my zeros for 22,000. Okay, let's do number 5. 16 pounds is how many ounces? So I know ounces is my smallest. I'm going to go to a smaller unit. So I know I'm starting from a larger unit to a smaller unit. So I must do what? Multiply, right? I need to multiply. And how many ounces are in 1 pound? If you said 16, you are correct. So then you need to multiply 16 times 16. Go ahead and do that. Okay, so I wrote it out. 16 times 16. 6 times 6 is 36. Put my 6 down, carry my 3. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 3 is 9. 96. I'm done with the ones place. I'm done with that. And so I'm going to put a 0 there because I'm done with it. And I'm going to do the next step. Okay, if you got 256 ounces, you're correct. Oh, I forgot to show you that step down here, right? So 1 times 6 is 6, 1 times 1 is 1. Add it up, 6 plus 0 is 6, 9 plus 6 is 15. Carry my 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, 256. Okay, so try number 6 and number 7 on your own. Remember that when you're going from a smaller to a bigger, you divide, bigger to smaller, multiply. Okay, so try 6 and 7 on your own and then come to see the answer when you're done. Okay, for number 6, you should have gotten 7 tons. So you should have done 14,000 divided by 2,000. Okay, 14,000 divided by 2,000 is 7. And for number 7, you should have gotten 10 pounds. You went from ounces. So division, you need to divide 160 divided by 16. It should have given you 10. Okay. Let's do number 8 together because this one has a fraction. So let's walk through this one because this one may be a little bit trickier if we've forgotten how to multiply by fractions. So first of all, I know I'm going from pounds to ounces. So I know a pound is more than an ounce. So I know I'm going from a bigger unit to a smaller unit. So I need to multiply. So go ahead and write down your multiplication problem. You're going to write down 5 1/4 times 16. Pause the video and write that down, and I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, so you should have 5 1/4 times 16. And now I know if I have a fraction, I got to turn this into a fraction. I can turn it into a fraction by putting my fraction bar and putting a 1 underneath. Now I got to turn this into a mixed, it's a mixed number. Now I got to turn it into an improper fraction. So remember, I multiply these two together, and then I'm going to add this over here, okay? My pin's a little bit delayed, so it looks kind of weird, okay? 5 times 4 is 20, plus 1 is 21, so it's going to be 21 over 4. Okay, so I have 21 over 4 times 16 over 1. Now, I'm going to make this a little bit easier on myself. So remember that you can think of this as one big fraction, as one big division problem. So I'm going to switch these around. So I'm going to put the 1 over here. I'm going to put the 4 over here. Remember how we said we could do that. And so now it's 21 over 1 and 16 over 4. And I know that 4 goes into 16 4 times. So that's going to become a 4. And I know that 4 divided by 4 is 1, so that's going to become a 1. Whatever I do to the top, I do to the bottom. If I divide this by 4, I got to divide that one by 4. Now I have 21 times 4, which is, I'm going to do it over here, 21 times 4. So 21 times 4 gives me 1 times 4 is 4, 2 times 4 is 8, gives me 84. So that gives me 84 over 1 because 1 times 1 is 1. 84 divided by 1 is 84. So my answer is 84 ounces. Wow, that was a long one, right? So hopefully you remembered how to multiply fractions, okay? All right, so let's do the next one together too, okay? So I have 848 ounces, and I'm going to pounds. Okay, so 848 ounces to pounds. I'm going from a smaller unit to a bigger unit, so I must divide. So I know I got to divide 848 divided by 16. So go ahead and write it down. Pause the video and write it down. Okay, so I wrote down 848 divided by 16. So now I'm going to think, okay, 16 goes into 84 how many times? Okay, and 16, that's one of those tricky ones. So if I were to estimate, that's right between the 10 and the 20. It's closer to 20. So I'm going to estimate, and I'm going to do like a little guess and check, and I'm going to do 16 times 4 and see what I get. Okay, so I did 16 times 4 up here, and I remember I had done this one before. 6 times 4 is 24. Carry my 2. 4 times 1 is 4. Plus 2 is 6. It's 64. So I think I can keep going. So I'm going to try 16 times 5. So try 16 times 5 and see what you get. Pause the video and try 16 times 5. My 16 times 5. 5 times 6 is 30. Carry my 3. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 3 is 8. 80. So yep, that's going to give me close. I can't do any more because it's going to give me a bigger amount. So I'm going to put my 5 up here, and then I'm going to subtract my 80. Okay, so I put my 5 on top. 16 times 5 is 80. Subtract it. 4 take away 0 is 4. 8 take away is 0. Is 4 less than 8? I mean less than 16? Yes, I did it right. Now I'm going to bring down my 8. So now I'm going to do 16 goes into 48 how many times? Well, I know it's going to be less than 5 because that's 80. And I know it's going to be less than 4 because I already did it over here and it was 64. So I'm going to try 3 times. I'm going to multiply 16 times 3. Go ahead and do that. Pause the video. Try 16 times 3. And I did this on the side over here. I did 16 times 3. 6 times 3 is 18. Carry my 1. 3 times 1 is 3. Plus 1 is 48. Lo and behold, there it is. So it goes in 3 times. And I'm going to subtract my 48. So subtracted, I get 0. So my answer is 53 pounds. So 53 pounds is 848 ounces. Okay. So try to do the next one on your own and then come back to me to get the answer. So I have 720 ounces is how many pounds? So remember, you're going from a smaller to a bigger. So you're dividing again. Okay. So try that one and then come back to me. Okay, if you got 45 pounds, you are correct. If you did not, this is what I did. I tried 16 times 5. I just went straight to the middle and I got 80. I figured, okay, that's too much. So then I did 16 times 4 and I got 64. I figured, okay, it's got to be 4. So it goes in 4 times. So put my 4, 72, take away 64. I got 2, I can't take away 4. I got to borrow, that becomes a 6. A 7 becomes a 6. 12 take away 4 is 8. 8 is less than 16, so I did it right. Bring down my 0. 80, and I already did 16 times 5 gave me 80, so it's 45. 16 times 5 is 80. Okay?